The person you can't stop thinking about isn't controlling your mind through some mysterious power or irresistible magnetism. Your obsession has nothing to do with their actual qualities and everything to do with psychological material you've unconsciously projected onto them. The more impossible they become to forget, the more likely they represent aspects of yourself that you've disowned, denied, or never developed. Carl Jung discovered that obsessive thinking about another person almost always indicates projection, the unconscious process of attributing your own psychological content to external objects. When someone becomes the center of compulsive thoughts, fantasies, and emotional preoccupation, they've become a screen onto which you're projecting unlived parts of your own psyche. Jung wrote in The Relations Between the Ego and the Unconscious, "Projections change the world into the replica of one's own unknown face. The person you're obsessing over has become a mirror reflecting psychological material that belongs to you but remains unconscious and unintegrated. When you withdraw your projections and integrate the disowned material, the obsession naturally dissolves because its psychological function has been fulfilled." The projection obsession. Jung observed that intense emotional fixation on another person typically involves what he called shadow projection or animus projection, unconsciously attributing your own disowned psychological material to someone else. The qualities that make them irresistible often represent aspects of yourself that you've rejected, suppressed, or never developed. In Psychology and Alchemy, Jung wrote, "The shadow is the thing a person has no wish to be. But projection works in reverse. You become obsessed with people who embody qualities you unconsciously wish to possess but can't acknowledge in yourself. Their confidence reflects your unlived self-assurance. Their creativity mirrors your suppressed artistic potential. The obsession serves a psychological function. It keeps you connected to these disowned aspects through external attachment rather than internal development. Your psyche uses obsessive thinking to maintain contact with parts of yourself that have been split off from conscious awareness." Jung noted that projection creates a double bind. You feel incomplete without the other person because you genuinely are incomplete, not because they complete you, but because you've externalized essential aspects of your own psychological wholeness. This explains why obsessive thoughts feel both compelling and torturous. Part of you recognizes that what you're seeking exists within your own psychological makeup, but another part insists that it belongs exclusively to the other person. The internal conflict between recognition and denial creates the mental loops that characterize obsessive thinking. The intensity of obsession often correlates with the importance of the projected material. If you're obsessing over someone's apparent emotional depth, your own emotional development may be the most crucial work of your life. If their success triggers obsessive thoughts, your own unlived ambition may be demanding recognition. Begin by honestly examining what specific qualities make this person irresistible. Write them down without censoring. These qualities point directly to aspects of yourself that need conscious development rather than external seeking. Participation. Mystique. Jung borrowed the term participation mystique from anthropologist Lucien Lévy-Bruhl to describe a primitive psychological state where boundaries between self and other become dangerously blurred. In obsessive attachment, this boundary dissolution creates the feeling that you cannot exist independently of the other person. Jung wrote in Psychological Types, "The subject cannot clearly distinguish himself from the object, but is bound to it in a relationship of almost mystical character." Participation mystique explains why ending obsessive attachment feels like psychological death. Your sense of self has become so merged with the other person that separation threatens your entire identity structure. This psychological merger often develops through what Jung called unconscious identity. You begin organizing your emotional reality around their responses, moods, and attention. Your self-worth fluctuates based on their approval or rejection. Your thoughts automatically include them in future plans. Your identity becomes defined in relation to their existence rather than your own autonomous development. Jung observed that participation mystique creates a parasitic psychological relationship where your energy flows primarily in one direction, toward maintaining connection with the other person rather than developing your own psychological resources. The mystique feels like love or deep connection, but Jung distinguished between healthy psychological relationship and unhealthy merger. In healthy relationship, two complete individuals choose to connect while maintaining separate identities. In participation mystique, two incomplete people attempt to create wholeness through fusion. Breaking participation mystique requires what Jung called differentiation, consciously separating your psychological material from theirs. This means identifying which emotions belong to you versus what you've absorbed from them, which thoughts originate from your own mind versus what you've internalized from their influence. Practice spending time alone without any contact or reminders of this person. Notice what aspects of your personality, interests, and emotional life exist independently of their influence. These represent your authentic psychological foundation. The Anima, Animus trap. Jung's concepts of Anima, the unconscious feminine aspect in men, and Animus, the unconscious masculine aspect in women, explain some of the most intense and persistent obsessions. When someone embodies your contrasexual archetype, they seem to possess everything you feel you lack for psychological completion. Jung wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "The anima is the archetype of life itself. When a man projects his anima onto a woman, she appears to embody all the vitality, emotional depth, creativity, and relational wisdom he feels he lacks. When a woman projects her animus onto a man, he seems to possess all the strength, direction, intellectual clarity, and authority she feels she needs. These projections create obsessions that feel larger than personal attraction because they connect you to archetypal energies rather than just individual qualities. The person becomes a gateway to aspects of the psyche that feel essential for wholeness. Anima-animus obsessions often manifest as instant recognition, feeling like you've always known this person or experiencing them as your missing half. The connection feels destined, meaningful beyond ordinary human relationship. But Jung warned that no real person can carry the weight of an entire archetype. The trap lies in believing that this specific person uniquely embodies these archetypal qualities. In reality, they've simply triggered your recognition of contrasexual energies that exist within your own psyche but remain undeveloped. Jung noted that anima-animus projections often create impossible idealization that no real person can sustain. When they inevitably reveal human limitations, the projection either collapses into devastating disillusionment or intensifies into desperate attempts to maintain the fantasy. The solution involves what Jung called withdrawing the projection, recognizing that the archetypal qualities you've attributed to them actually represent developmental potentials within your own psyche. Men must cultivate their own emotional depth, intuitive capacity, and relational skills. Women must develop their own intellectual authority, decisive capacity, and goal-directed action. Withdrawing your projections. Jung's method for ending obsession centers on systematically withdrawing your psychological projections through conscious recognition and active imagination. This process requires identifying what you've unconsciously attributed to the other person and reclaiming it as your own developmental work. The withdrawal process involves what Jung called taking back the energy. Instead of sending psychological energy toward them through thoughts, fantasies, and emotional investment, redirect that same energy toward developing the projected qualities within yourself. If you've projected creativity onto them, begin creating. If you've projected confidence, start taking risks that build genuine self-assurance. Jung noted that successfully withdrawn projections don't eliminate appreciation for the other person, but transform it from compulsive need to conscious choice. You can admire their qualities without requiring possession of them. You can feel affection without demanding reciprocation. Create a detailed inventory of everything you find irresistible about this person. Then honestly assess how much of each quality exists undeveloped within your own psychological makeup. This becomes your roadmap for reclaiming projected energy. The path to freedom. Jung's ultimate solution to obsessive attachment was individuation, the lifelong process of becoming psychologically whole and self-contained. When you develop the qualities you've been seeking in others, obsession becomes impossible because you no longer need external completion. True freedom from obsession emerges when you can think of the person without emotional charge, neither compulsive attraction nor defensive avoidance. They become simply another human being rather than a repository for your unlived life. The person you can't stop thinking about has given you the greatest gift possible. They've shown you exactly what aspects of yourself are ready for development. Your task isn't to win them, but to become so complete within yourself that obsession becomes unnecessary. Freedom isn't about forgetting someone, it's about remembering yourself.